Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market, let's figure out what is happening today and what we can of course expect, moving into tomorrow, the final day of the weekend, potentially even the rest of the month. So with all that being said and done, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button as it does help a lot. This is not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor, and of course, my membership section on YouTube is live. The link is down below for just $2.99 a month. You get access to all my posts, updates, thoughts, intraday thoughts, options flow on Tesla, sometimes other stocks as well that I showed over here, for instance, like Square and stuff over here. So yeah, if you're interested, again, the link is down below. Definitely check it out. But with all that being said and done, let's just jump into it. Tesla, surprisingly, green on the day, which is not something we get to say very often. 1.2% in the green, which unfortunately compared to the market is still an underperformance, with QQQ spiking up crazy 1.5% once again. So Tesla should be up closer to 3% today if it was just following the market. Unfortunately, still showing weakness, still having issues above going back above 180. And yeah, we're down another 0.25% post-market, which at this point is just really another day, honestly, right? So let's talk about it, right? So the Tesla is just, it's a frustrating stock. There's no question about it. This has been one of the most frustrating stocks of the mega caps by far to start the year. I mean, Apple's pretty frustrating too. So if you're someone that's, holding Apple or whatever, Apple has been also getting destroyed, but pretty badly too, actually. I think Apple 167 to 165 is looking pretty good though, I'm not gonna lie. And also, by the way, Apple's also the most oversold on the daily chart it has pretty much almost ever been since all the way back in, what day is this, 2018. So just take that for what it's worth, right? But I do have a cash here put on Apple for 167 for next Friday, so I'm very happy to buy shares there. Yeah, anyway, let's get back to Tesla. This is a Tesla video. So so there's a few things. Let's talk about obviously the overall picture. The overall picture, like we said, by the way, I'm using TradingView now because there's something that I want to show you guys later that I started using that's really damn good. So, but let's talk about just the picture overall. So first and foremost, like we talked about, right, we're in a very interesting situation where first and foremost, we're obviously in this massive channel, right? See, the beautiful thing here is I can finally just draw like this, right? We're in this massive channel that is, we're constantly zigzagging in between the channel, but essentially in between up here and in between down here. Right. So as long as we're kind of zigzagging in between there, obviously that's going to continue. Now, the thing that's interesting is, well, one thing for the bullish side, rather, we are, of course, at the bottom of the channel. We're at the bottom of the channel right now, but there is still technically more, I guess, room to the downside because it's like a double-sided channel, right? We have two parts to this bottom channel, right? We have the one that we're pretty much bounced off of today, more or less, and yesterday, arguably, which is the top part of the channel, which is pretty much the low 170s. We talked about that. But unfortunately, there's also the bottom part of the channel, which is pretty much the mid to high 160s, we'll say. It depends on when it happens, but around the mid to high 160s, right? Yeah, and it's not great. There's an absolutely real possibility we do go down there. The MACD on the daily flipped bearish once again, which is pretty sad to see, but it did, right? It's been holding pretty much below zero this whole time. So this bear flag was just a very evident bear flag that I still somehow got caught in, even though I was completely all cash right before it. But nonetheless, that's just a me problem, obviously. But nonetheless, right, there's a lot of momentum that is just really not there for Tesla. Now, with that being said, if there's a caveat here, if somehow Tesla gaps up tomorrow, obviously so far it's not looking good, but in theory, if somehow Tesla does gap up on the lower volume, kind of easier to manipulate price, if you will, in the post pre-market, above 180, that's a good sign. But you can tell how this white line up here is pretty much 180 on the dot. And you can see how almost perfectly we came up to it today, got rejected. Same thing with yesterday. Couldn't close above 180 today, came up to it. We literally touched, I think, the highest point. We went to 180.04 and got smacked down once again. And we just couldn't close above it. So as long as we're below 180, the chances of going down to this kind of 165-ish level is pretty likely. It's a very likely, probability of happening. Let's just say that, right? Especially if we close a candle pretty much below 174. Let's just say, to make it simple, 174, 175, that region, very likely. So that's kind of what we're waiting for. Now, on the flip side, let's say we do gap up above 180, or let's say we do, push back above 180 and especially close the daily candle above 180. Let's say tomorrow, for instance, right? The thing I can see happening is, well, we get a little bit of a relief rally, right? I do think a relief rally wouldn't be out of the cards here, assuming that, of course, condition is met, where, we come back up to somewhere around the 190s, like the very low 190s to the mid to high 180s, like somewhere around this general region up here to potentially retest this little downtrend that we found ourselves in ever since way back here in the, what was this, like the 260s-ish region. right? And then most likely reject and then come back down. And then I think from there, we could potentially look to bounce up. If not, of course, we fail this and we continue moving down, well, even further, right? That's obviously the possibilities. But the main thing to look at right now is really 180, kind of back how we talked about it over here, 180 and pretty much 174/5, the most important levels. And now, and you know what to expect if one of these levels is breached. The exact same way we talked about it over here when we were talking about 198 to like pretty much 205. If one of these levels gets breached, we continue in that direction. We're pretty much doing the exact same thing we did here, except now we're setting it up over here. So that's going to be important to understand. But again, MACD is bearish and that's not good. Now, I want to show you something that I like to use right now. It's called the market bias, which is these, red tapes, one of which is like a shorter term, like a shorter momentum term, and one of which is a kind of a midterm sentiment, if you will, or like market bias in terms of just, is the stock bullish or bearish? Is the trend bullish or bearish, right? Just to put it simply, obviously red means bearish, green means bullish. Pretty simple. The short term, you can see when we rallied over here, the short term trend did flip bullish, right? And it was bullish, right? We had a nice little breakout over here, a break of trend, came back down, retested it as support, and then we continued up even further, right? And then of course we consolidated and we came up right into the resistance of the medium trend band, right? Of the momentum, which of course was still acting as a resistance, and that's where we kind of were trading. And it definitely could have went either way. In all honesty, this could have easily broken up to the upside. There was, in my opinion, it was a kind of a coin flip situation that you really just wait and see, honestly, which sometimes I wish I listened to myself more. But the point I'm trying to make is the fact that we are just well below it, right? We crashed well below it. Both of them turn bearish again. And the thing I'm trying to say here is if we do break above 180, and if we do get candles above 180 on the daily, ideally, especially a close, we come up to essentially retest these trends once again, right? We'll just come up to retest the trends once again, right up to it. And, it'll be pretty much a retest of that and see if we can break above it or not. I doubt it, honestly, but you never know, of course, right? Putting all bias aside, it's very real and very possible, but that would be that scenario essentially if we go above 180. So take that into account. But again, with an RSI below 50, we'll say, right? Not great. Below the median, not great. MACD flipping bearish, not great. So the momentum for Tesla is still absolutely to the downside. And at the moment, you're pretty much just bottom picking Tesla at major support areas with a tight stop. That's the only way to play this, in my opinion, or just sell cash your puts if you're just someone that's just investing and you don't really care, or you're just willing to buy the dip and you don't really care if it goes lower kind of thing. You'll just buy more, right? Really depends on what your strategy is, I guess. But another issue is if we do break above 180, we have a lot of, high volume above us, right? So, it would be a bit of a trek. Like the first level you can see here is 183. There's some decent volume at 183, which would be where this candle rejected at. And that would be kind of the first small little resistance, with the next one pretty much being right around that, very high 180s to very low 190s, which is pretty much where we would meet these bands at. So that's kind of the main way I'm looking at it right now. It really just depends on which level breaks first. Otherwise, we pretty much chop sideways just like we did up here until a direction is picked. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it right now. Options flow all over the place, really. Today, started off pretty bearish. We had a 4.1 million bearish put coming in for, April 5th, 175 put coming in the morning on that little morning pop. And then after that, kind of a whole lot of nothing until we did get some nice bullish flow throughout the majority of the afternoon. Honestly, we had a nice bullish flow that the bulls, it seemed like they really wanted to push it back above 180, but just could not do it because a lot of these strikes are at 180. So that could be the reason for it. Maybe, the market makers are just not letting them, essentially make money off of these calls. Who knows what exactly the reasoning behind is. It's a complex system, but the bulls were trying to push it over 180, couldn't do it. And the bears just barely defended it pretty much right at, 180, as you can see, almost exactly to the T. So, important to understand that. But overall, the structure is bearish. If you're someone that's extremely safe, in my opinion, and you really want to be like, you want to trade Tesla, but you want to be just as risk adverse as possible, this is not the place for you to trade right now. This is a very highly volatile, highly risky trade. Buying Tesla here, unless you're just investing, of course, because the trend is still bearish. You're pretty much bottom picking at major support areas. The way to play Tesla, if you're someone very safe and you want to have a high probability of success and you're willing to wait for it, is really break above this downtrend line, right? This red downtrend line since the 300s, and combined with a break above, ideally, both of these bands turning bullish, and we start going back above it, and then you can also buy on the retest. That, to me, is probably the safest way to play it if you're willing to just be very patient and just wait, which can take some time before that happens. Could take a while before that happens. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it right now. That's my overall picture. And that's why I started using TradingView, because these bands are freaking great, man. They're honestly amazing. So I do have some other trades lined up for it right now that, for instance, one trade I'm looking at right now that's looking pretty decent, which isn't showing up. There it is Disney, for instance, right? Nice little trade here. I did enter shares here, and I also have a cash secured put I mean, for tomorrow, it's going to expire worthless at this rate, which is great. But, nice volume on Disney, nice little risk reward trade up to about 115, 116, looking pretty solid. Also, essentially, in a bullish trend, you can see both bands are green, and we came back to retest the first short-term momentum, bullish, band of momentum, or whatever you want to call it. Market bias is what it's called. Looking pretty decent, right? There is a bit of a risk here, as the MACD is looking a little bit suspicious. I'm not gonna lie, but RSI is healthy, still well above 50, and the trend is still overall up until, of course, proven otherwise. So that's kind of an example of a trade, right? Another one, for instance, is Square. Beautiful looking, a bull flag setting up over here. I'm so used to saying bear flag because I just constantly look at Tesla. Bull flag setting up, right? Also retesting the band as well. So not looking too bad over here. Ideally, I would personally enter this closer to the 74s, but, potential here is as well. Same with GameStop. Even GameStop is looking better than Tesla here, which is sad. But GameStop, for instance, broke out of a massive downtrend long time ago, right? Massive downtrend has been in, finally barely broke out, and also the bands have both turned bullish. So a retest of these is going to be great. I have a cash here put for GameStop sitting at 14.5 for next Friday, which I'm willing to buy, right? As long as, of course, we hold that, potential retest, which I think we'll get somewhat soon for GameStop. So that's just an example of how these bands are used and how I am personally going to be starting to use these, because I think they're pretty darn good, man. I really do, especially when they both coincide like this. It's like a massive double support, and GameStop is looking surprisingly pretty good. We live in a world where GameStop looks better than Tesla as a trade. Costco selling off on earnings, so that could be something that, right back to the band on earnings. Could be an opportunity. We'll see. But, anyway, I'm just trying to show you a potential of how this can work, right? But obviously Costco very overbought on our side, so it's a little bit scary. But anyway, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it right now. That's the overall picture that I see. And so let me know what you think down below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. But all that being said and done, I'll see you tomorrow. So until then, peace.